Bank of America customers, vote with your feet. Get the heck out of that bank. Find yourself a bank or credit union that won't gouge you for $5 a month and still will give you a debit card that you can use every single day.
That you can use every single day. That was Senator Dick Durbin on the Senate floor this week, urging a run on Bank of America after it started charging customers a $5 a month fee for their use of their own debit cards. What the senator, of course, neglected to mention is that Bank of America's decision came after government price controls on debit swipe fees went into effect last week, courtesy of, you guessed it, Senator Durbin's amendment to the financial overhaul law. You couldn't have written a better script. So who really deserves to bear the brunt of this outrage, the banks or the government? We're going to hear both sides of this one. Here now to discuss are my freedom fighters, Fox Business energy analyst and my colleague, Phil Flynn. Nancy Skinner, radio host of The Nancy Skinner Show and Freedom Watch regular. And Amelia Andretti, AMA Productions CEO. Amelia, to you first. He has some gall getting on the floor of the Senate and chastising Bank of America for doing what his amendment that he wrote, that became the law, forced it to do. What did his amendment do?
His amendment is put all the rules and regulations in place that exactly handcuffing Bank of America. Bank of America is trying to survive in counter to the rules and regulations. This is exactly what we keep talking about. Nobody thinks about the domino effect and the consequences that these rules and regs have. He doesn't know if he's part of the problem or the solution.
All right. Before the Dodd-Frank bill, Nancy Skinner, merchants paid for the cost of operating the debit card system. As a result of the Dodd-Frank bill, consumers pay for it. You, as the champion of the little guy, should prefer that merchants pay for it rather than consumers. Am I right?
Well, since small businesses are 80% of our GDP, and they were getting charged, Judge, 44 cents a transaction, no. And now, so what they did is they capped it to 24 cents. And so the banks, these huge banks that have, their profit, their bottom line is huge. What are they're going to find another way to screw the consumer with a $5 credit fee. This is competition. If there's a hot dog stand that is charging less across the street, go across the street. That's exactly what Dick Durbin was saying.
What Nancy
if they're going to do that to you, go elsewhere.
All right, what Nancy says is correct. Competition does improve the product. But how can competition be fair when the federal government is micromanaging financial institutions to suit people like Dick Durbin, not to suit the needs of consumers and investors? Am I right, Phil Flynn?
Absolutely right. I'll tell you what, and the banks warned Senator Durbin this was going to happen. And I think what Senator Durbin said on the floor, he has a tendency to get emotional and run off his mouth a little bit. But at the end of the day, what he said is really irresponsible. You know, you don't want to, create a run on a bank when the economy is so questionable. And this type of emotional rhetoric, which Senator Durbin is known for going over the top a couple of times, just isn't helpful in this type of environment.
Are more banks considering more changes in order to respond and react to the new regulations that are coming down on them? And aren't some of these regulations at this moment unknown and unknowable because the bureaucrats that will write the regulations haven't written them yet?
Exactly. And this is the first of many that is coming to see. And yes, I feel bad for the consumer. I'm also a consumer. You saw the airline industry do it. You're going to see more from the banks.
Phil, I know you're in Chicago and not in New York, but how does Wall Street, generically, Wall Street, fear regulators who have carte blanche to regulate what they want, how they want? The regulators haven't been identified yet. They haven't put pen to paper yet. So how can businesses make judgments when they don't know what the rules will be?
I think that's exactly what's happening with the economy. I think that's what's going on here. This uncertainty in the global marketplace is freezing businesses. And then, of course, when you get chastised, in front of the Congress, when you make a decision to stay in business, I think it's making it even more nervous. This is the type of environment where the regulators have gone way too far, and we're seeing it, cost everybody. Listen, the bottom line is you and I are going to pay for it. The average American, the people they purport to help. It's the law of unintended consequences. And we're seeing that in this, and we're going to see it in a much bigger way, and we're seeing it in the lack of job creation.
All right,
so
Nancy Skinner, the government gave $50 billion to Bank of America. Now the #2 Democrat in the Senate is saying, take your money out, go somewhere else. What kind of sense does that make?
No, plus they've made it back, and they're going to make from this change $2.32 billion. Judge, let's get back to simple economics.
Go ahead.
You can't have monopoly powers if people don't have money to spend, because let's face it, bank and credit card companies have been screwing consumers. We have less money to spend on products to grow our economy. To say that regulation has gone too far is ridiculous, because that's why Wall Street collapsed. It didn't go far enough.
Okay, all right. I got your argument. Switching gears. New internal White House emails are surfacing this week, revealing that many top officials dismissed concerns about the now bankrupt solar panel company, Nancy's favorite, Solyndra, which received a $535 million loan guarantee from the federal government and became the poster child of its efforts to subsidize the green energy industry. Defending the massive loan guarantee in an interview this week, all the president could say was, hindsight is always 20/20. Phil Flynn, does the government have any business borrowing money in the people's name or taking the people's tax dollars and subsidizing its rich friends?
I don't think so. And I'll tell you what, not only that, they're gambling with our money. I mean, they're basically taking tax dollars and betting it on a technology and in businesses that had little chance to succeed, and they knew it. This is exactly the wrong way to do things. You know, President Obama, when he was running for election as president, he says, get rid of the special interests, get rid of big oil and, you know, the Halliburtons, and put me in office. The problem is now we have bigger special interests that don't make money, things like Big Green, which is really taking the taxpayers for a ride. If you look at the money that's been wasted on green energy, it's been a disaster for this
Amelia,
economy.
how does the government decide who to give money to, who to die on the vine? Let die on the vine.
How should it be done, or how? Right now, it's who your friends are.
How is it done? Is it done politically or is it done economically?
It's absolutely done politically. This is not about hindsight. He knew. He was told by his people that this was a bad investment. Somebody who was first-year business school would have known that the margins were not sustainable. They even said to him that by the time you take your trip to do your walkthrough, the company may be bankrupt.
All right, Nancy Skinner, should the government be picking winners and losers and putting its thumb on the scales to cause winners and losers in the marketplace? I'm not talking about war. I'm not talking about foreign policy. I'm talking about in the marketplace.
Well, that's what China's doing. That's what Germany has done. In Japan, listen, even DOE, the guy who headed up DOE for Bush, said, I would have made the same call. Silicon prices were this high. We're moving in that direction. I would have made the same decision. What business in private practice has 100%? Every single business you want private succeeds? No. Sometimes businesses take a bath.
Right.
But the margins work. But the margins work. The margins are predictable and reliable. You know you can't run a business for underneath 20% margin. It is impossible.
What was the price of silicon? How did the price of silicon affect this investment?
All right, we have to go, but Phil,
You
I'm
didn't
going to
know
give
that,
you the
did
last
you?
word.
It
Was
fell.
this just a bad judgment call by bureaucrats, or was this a call that bureaucrats shouldn't have been making? We have about 30 seconds.
A call that they shouldn't be making. And she mentioned China. I'll tell you what, China did invest in those technologies, but they're also investing in oil and gas and drilling and fractional drilling, which this administration is standing in the way of.
Got it. Appreciate it, guys. Amelia Antonetti, Nancy Skinner, Phil Flynn, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.